nearly a decade older, twice her age. And Dorothy's parents were concerned. They felt like Dorothy was in her life with this relationship. It was distracting her from her education. It was going to set her off down a bad path. They just felt like this relationship was going to change the trajectory of Dorothy. She was a good girl. She was intelligent. She was hardworking. It was clear that she was a really, really successful. And now her parents worried that this boy, a fully grown man, was going to distract her from that. And they also found it really weird. I think they were more upset because they were kind of thinking of this from the angle of they were immigrants and they had worked so hard to give Dorothy and her two siblings all the opportunities that they'd had, the schooling that they'd had. Her parents had worked their backsides off for them, and they feared that Dorothy was just throwing all that away with this man. But Paul Snider was very, very charming, and the first time he met her parents, they were quite cold, and they didn't really want to know. They weren't impressed by this boy. But after a few times of meeting them, he managed to charm them. He was a very, very charming individual, I think, and I will continue to say it, because he seems to be every single day of his life. No matter how many reasons they have, people will always end up liking him. Actually, Dorothy's parents began to see him as a hard-working guy that was in love with their daughter and wanted to give her the whole world, and so they accepted him into their family because he seemed like a daughter. To be fair though, the main reason that Dorothy's parents did Paul was how happy he made Dorothy. I've never seen her this happy her whole life. And if she was happy, they were happy. But things get weird. Eventually, Paul had a conversation with Dorothy about what his job really was. And he was actually a Playboy magazine as well. So Dorothy hears this and she like freaks out a bit at first. I imagine it's quite a shocking thing to hear. But after a while, she kind of comes to the conclusion that, well, if he's not cheating, then it's fine. It's none of her business. She told him that she wanted to stay with him. And that was when Paul asked her if she had thought about modelling before. She hadn't. Like I said, she was like an innocent, naive little farm girl that grew up in the States. She'd never done anything out there like that. But Paul told Dorothy that she just had something about her. Of all the models that he'd met, because of his job, obviously, he said that Dorothy just had this quality over them. She was better than he'd seen. He said she had a real star quality. Like, she just lifted the room when she walked in. She changed the energy of the room. It was almost addictive for her to know this talent to, like, entertain people happy. He told her that without a doubt she could model for Playboy. She had the look, she had the vibe, she, you know, he knew Playboy best because he scouted for them, and he knew that Dorothy would 100% get a contract with Playboy. All you had to do was yes. And she was reluctant to do so at first. Like I said, she was a relatively shy girl, and so for her, immediately topless photo shoots were completely out of the question. She was not comfortable with nudity at all. But as the conversation went on, she was telling her more about what the job entails, and that she didn't have to do nudity if she didn't want. She could continue to wear the whole time. And she started warming to the idea, you know, if she could keep her morals and her values, and have this thing she'd be good at, then she was like, why not? I will try it. And Paul was so excited about this. He was so happy for Dorothy. He was like, let me sort it for you. He hired a professional photographer, a professional studio, and Dorothy Stratton had her first ever photo shoot in Japan. And that was a mental hurdle for her to get over. As soon as she did, she unleashed a whole new Dorothy. The pictures came out incredible and natural. She was really friendly and flirty, and like she had the vibe. She looked at these photos and she was so happy. She could finally see what Paul was seeing when he was saying, you'll be perfect for this. She was finally when she's like, Yeah, I kind of am. And this gave them send these photos off to Playboy, and as soon as they saw them, they were obsessed. They wanted Dorothy Stratton. They said they wanted her to start ASAP. They wanted her working at the bar. They wanted her in the mansion. But they wanted to. Dorothy was a fresh 18 years old. In Canada, that was still a minor. The age of legal responsibility over there was or is 19. This wasn't a they were still allowed to take photos of an underage girl in her underwear just as long as they had parental consent. Honestly, it's a whole true crime. You're going to hear so many dodgy things throughout this video. A lot of them are kind of smoothed out these days. A lot of them were happening when Playboy was just starting out, but weird company. Really weird. But anyway, Dorothy was told that she could be a Playboy bunny if she just got her mummy and daddy's permission. And they gave her it. To be fair to her parents, they were Dutch, and the age of legal responsibility there is a their daughter can consent and make her own decisions. So, I mean, if the parents were okay, she was buzzing. From someone at the time, they said, I wanted her on the next plane here. She was a total woman. That's about to be completely different for Dorothy Stratton, and Snyder was very aware of what the Playboy was. Parties, there were men, there was a lot of sex that went on in the mansion, and he wanted to get a ring on that girl as quickly as possible. And so in 1979, the two of them got married. It was about a year after they first met, and a couple of months after the wedding, Dorothy jetted off to the Playboy. In an interview about this time in her life, she said, I was very shy. I never dated boys. I never went out to parties. The first time I went to Playboy, it was my first time. Was the girl next door. They look for girls that are wholesome, fresh, and naive, which I suppose Dorothy Stratton fit to a T. She was that wholesome, naive girl that was to LA living the high life. So let's talk about Dorothy's life as a Playboy bunny, shall we? Just for a second. Talk about the bunnies in the house around that time were between the ages of 21 and 24. And like I said, Dorothy Stratton, 18. So she stuck out like a sore thumb. She got a lot of attention, positive attention, because men like women, sometimes too young. So she was a lot of men's favourite, shall we say. In terms of her job, this was her career at this point. She was paid $1,000 every single week. All of the bunnies were. That was like a flat rate to be a Playboy bunny. Flat rate? Interesting way of putting that. But all the bunnies got paid $1,000 every week. And that was because their rent was taken care of. Everything bill-wise was taken care of. So this $1,000 was to spend on things like hair, nails, I don't know, did Playboy bunnies fake? I don't know about the UK. It was basically just money to keep them pretty. You know what I mean? And all the $1,000 a week ended up just going back to expenses. That $1,000 a week salary actually made these women some of the highest earning women at the time. Oh, and they also offered plastic surgery on Hugh Hefner's coin. Like, if they wanted a boob job, if they wanted a BBL, if they wanted anything, yeah, it's on me. So living in the Playboy mansion did come also 9 p.m. curfew. This was strict. The consequences for breaking curfew, even if they were just 5 minutes late, was that their weekly allowance, that $1,000, would be. I don't know how much by. I think it was different depending on what the bunny had done that required this punishment. General punishment. All bad behaviour in the mansion was that. So if they didn't get the whole they get the full $1,000. But if they did a few naughty things, they were only getting $7. All the girls had a strict uniform that consisted of a tail. There were bunny ears, wrist cuffs, a bow tie, a little collar. They had the option of wearing stockings or tights if they wanted. And of course, they had to be wearing heels at all times. But the uniform actually came in two sizes. sizes at this time. I don't know how many sizes it comes in now. Do they even still have that uniform now? I don't know. But it only came in 2 sizes back then. 34D, 6C. And I bet a lot of girls are listening to that, like, which obviously most of the Playboy bunnies did not fit into one of these 2 sizes. So the girls had to look ways to fit into them. They would stuff their bra with things to kind of fill it out. Extra bra cups, so that they had a bit more extra push. This wasn't against because obviously the Playboy Mansion understood that if they're only supplying 2 lots of uniforms, then the girls are going to have to make alterations. But there were a lot of things that were against the rules, actually, and they were frequent. And if anything was out of line with these girls, they would get their allowance. Even things as little as like having chipped nail polish. Apparently Hugh Hefner hated chipped nail polish. He had what was called, which was an older woman that came into the mansion to all get ready for the night. And all the girls actually had to be there at the mansion an hour before their paid so that they could get ready. Because obviously they had to be all dressed up to be able to work makeup, hair, all that. They could not turn up to work after just rolling out of bed. No chance. So Dorothy herself, as for her main job, she actually couldn't work behind the bar. She was only 18 and she couldn't legally serve alcohol. So instead, she was just greeting people on entry. She was just kind of standing there, being a smiley self. But still, she had all the same strict uniform requirements, even though she wasn't in the main. Oh, and one of these requirements that I forgot to mention earlier was actually that the girls had weekly weigh-ins to make sure that they weren't putting on weight, which is in fact, they allegedly had money not to their allowance if they gained. I don't know how true that is, that's why I say allegedly, but even worse, I know. They're also required to have regular medical checkups, regular STI tests, even though they were actually banned from having sex with while they were Playboy bunnies. I actually don't know what the specifics of that rule were, but I know they weren't allowed to sleep with just anyone. I don't know if they had to like... I don't know, I actually don't know. So the girls were banned from having sex with any of the men that came inside the club, inside the Playboy Mansion. But there was a small and very exclusive group of men that were exempt from this rule, and these were the C1 key holders. If a man had a C1 key, which was a key to a room in the mansion, kind of like the red room in the mansion, then he was allowed to date or have sex with any of the Playboy bunnies. I mean, consensual on both ends is implied there. I know that probably doesn't sound it. But if he wanted to sleep with one of the bunnies and she wanted to sleep with him, then they were allowed because he had this key to this special room where it was allowed to. Only the richest and most powerful men in the world had these keys. All the like senior Playboy bunny staff had them, as well as Hugh Hefner. Whenever a new girl would join and become a Playboy bunny, Hugh Hefner and all his friends would take her into a room, take a picture of her with a Polaroid camera, and then give her a number from 1 to 3. The girls didn't know what any of this. They didn't know what the picture was for, they didn't know what the number meant. It was never explained, and it later turned out that this was Hugh Hefner and his friends' way of deciding whether a girl was good looking enough to come back. That number was a rating from 1 to 3. 1 was gorgeous, 2 was alright, and 3 was she's never coming back in here ever again. So I don't know how glamorous I've made the Playboy bunny lifestyle sound so far. To me, it's not very glamorous. I don't know. But I'm about to make it sound like hell on earth, so enjoy. Most of what I'm about to say comes from a woman named Holly Madison, who is a former Playboy bunny who's come out about a lot of shit that goes on behind closed doors. She was the one that exposed the weigh-ins and, you know, the consequences of put on weight, all that kind of stuff, all those horrible details of what those girls went through. Holly also mentioned that the girls were expected to be naked at all times. They were all underwear in the house if they were A, on their period, or B, to indicate that they didn't want to have sex that night. But actually, they were expected to have sex every day. It was supposed to only be like a once in a while thing where they would turn it down. It was part of the job. that they had to have sex. Whether that was with each other or even sometimes with Hugh Hefner if he chose them, or, you know, one of his associates or friends, the C1 key holders. If the Playboy bunny dating and sleeping with someone that wasn't Hugh Hefner, another bunny, or one of the C1 key holders that hadn't been approved, then she would be kicked out of the mansion. Orgies were like a occurrence in the Playboy bunnies, and the girls, all the Playboy bunnies, were, as a rule, expected to join in. Obviously, there were times when they didn't and they didn't have to in those situations, but it was kind of, you know, as a rule, every bunny is expected to be involved. And usually, after a big party, they would go on a drink binge. Viagra was available in pretty much every single room in the mansion. They made sure every room was fully stocked up. But one thing that wasn't very easily available was protection. Condoms, anything. Hugh Hefner was not a fan of condoms. He actually refused to wear protection with any of the girls, which, let's be real, that's why the STI screenings were so regular. It wasn't really to protect the bunnies, it was to protect Hugh Hefner. But finally done with the tangent. Wasn't that a tangent of the century? I was talking about Dorothy Stratton and then all of a sudden I'm talking about but anyway, that was the last was now swept up in. This small town girl from a farm in Canada was now the next biggest thing coming up in LA. In one of Dorothy's first ever photo shoots for the magazine, she was actually on the middle page spread at the centerfold of the magazine. You know, the middle page that's always the best bit, is the best bit. And this was a really, really big deal because the bunny that was the centerfold, the middle page spread, she was supposed to be like the it girl. She was the next one, she was the one to watch. And that was Dorothy Stratton in August of 1979, and she was so excited. For the shoot, Dorothy was sent somewhere abroad with a whole team, like a whole crew that was going to take photos of her for the centerfold. It was a really big budget thing.